Nothing spells an enthusiast's wet dream like a fast AMG station wagon. Right here, I have a 2019 Mercedes-AMG E63S. And what you need to know about it is, well, it's a station wagon with a monstrously powerful 600 horsepower V8 hiding under the hood. Any normal, random person that this car drives by on the street will look at it and think it's just a basic Mercedes E450 or E350 or whatever the base model is. Who cares what the base model is? Because we are standing here next to the king of fast wagons. Now, there is also the Audi RS6 in this segment, which is a very cool car, but it's a little bit less subtle than the E63, which is one thing I really respect about the E63. And at the same time, BMW offered the F90 M5, which was only offered as a sedan. Even though it was technically quicker to 60, it's not available as a wagon. So in my opinion, the M5 doesn't even count. And I think BMW has noticed that fast wagons have been really successful in America and elsewhere, because the next generation G90 BMW M5 is the first in 20 years to come in a wagon version, and it's finally coming to the United States. So hopefully at some point I will be able to bring you a review of one of those, and I'm very excited about that. But what we have here is one of the two cars that convinced BMW to bring us the M5 wagon, the E63S. Let's take a review type tour of it. This Mercedes station wagon right here started off as a W223 E-Class. I think that's the right generation. And what AMG did was take it and make it really cool. Gone are the days of station wagons being old, big, flobbery, slow things that were so uncool that you wouldn't want to even see your grandma driving one. It was that embarrassing. Now, wagons, because of cars like this, are starting to become the cool thing, especially for enthusiasts. Enthusiasts like me tend to really like station wagons because they offer an unmatched combination of practicality and drivability, plus they're just cool and rare because people don't buy wagons anymore. Everybody buys SUVs. So an enthusiast like me is obviously going to be super excited by the prospect of a 600 horsepower AMG wagon. So let's talk some basics real quick. This generation E63, yes, is available as a sedan, which makes it the only car in its class to be offered in both body configurations. If you want to be lame and boring and just look like a regular businessman on his way to his meeting, then you can go ahead and get an E63 sedan. But why would you when you can have so much more practicality and no downside at all? About 2 years ago, I actually reviewed the previous generation, an early previous generation of the E63 with the old 6.2 liter V8. So if you want to watch an older AMG video with 6.2 liters of naturally aspirated V8 glory, that video will be linked somewhere on the screen right now, so go check that out. Let's talk practicality, but don't groan and don't click off just yet, because practicality is actually an important thing when it comes to a car like this. It's just as important that this car can fit all of your luggage and all of the stuff you need to put back at a moment's notice, as much as it is that this car can beat up supercars. So with that being said, let's see how much space we have back here. So I press a button and an electric tailgate lifts up to reveal a massive cargo area back here. You could fit so much stuff back here, it really makes you forget that this car is such a crazy performance car. This is the benefit of super wagons like this one. Not only can it beat up Ferraris and every sports car you encounter on the road, it can also fit a ton of crap back here. Also, if you need to put down the rear seats for extra room, you can do that, and it is a switch, fully electrical. You can do that, and you can't fold them back up, which is a little annoying, but at least it's an electronic switch so that it feels that little bit more luxurious. And yes, if you fold down these rear seats, then the amount of cargo and the amount of things that you can fit back here balloons even further. Are you still feeling good about your E63 sedan purchase? I wouldn't at this point. Also, in terms of other things, there is a little AMG Easter egg right here above the exhaust tips. Couple AMG badges thrown in, and you will notice that this car has been debadged. There is no E63 badge on the back here, which I love the idea of that, because to any normal person that doesn't know, this is just a regular E-Class wagon. Why would you give it a second glance? Because it makes this sound. With that being said, we slip into the back seat of the E63 wagon and hold everything. Why close it like a normal plebeian when you can softly close it and let the electric motor do the rest? It has soft closed doors. What would you expect from a $100,000 luxury station wagon that has 600 horsepower? Right here you have some manual window shades for when you want to put your newborn baby back here who's sensitive to light. You can fold these up and then take him to daycare and break every single traffic law along the way. So I sit back here, and what do I notice first? Well, I notice these seats are trimmed in lovely leather and Alcantara with white contrast stitching and piping. Looks very nice. I look at the door panel, and it's trimmed in this gorgeous, beautiful wood that actually does feel real. Who knows if it is real? Sure, the commenters do, go ahead. But it definitely feels real. And you have some speaker covers right here, these speaker grills, which look absolutely gorgeous and very, very expensive. Unfortunately, there is a blank switch back here, which I assume must be for a power window shade if you choose to option one, but I could be wrong. But behind that, you have heated rear seats on 3 different levels. Also, all of the materials you feel, everything feels gorgeous and beautiful and expensive. Down here, the bottom of the door panel, it's a little bit plasticky if I want to be pedantic. Also, the back of the center console feels very plasticky and cheap, but those are the only 2 cheap feeling materials back here. I also have sort of a climate control system. I can change the temperature and the fan speed, and a little household style outlet and a cigarette style outlet for charging devices back here. Pretty sweet. And this seat is moved quite far back. I'm 6'3" and I've got plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom. My feet do feel pretty trapped underneath the seat, but overall, it's really not that bad back here. I've got plenty of room and I'm quite happy. But I'd be more happy in the front driving it, so let's move this video along. And here we are, up front in the E63 wagon. I sit down and immediately I notice that the sun is blinding me. Plus, you have the same gorgeous attention to detail up here that you do in the back, but there's even more stuff to play with. Take the fact that not only do I have heated seats like I did in the back, I also have ventilated seats, which is nice. And Mercedes and their typical seat controls up on the door panel are here. Also, more of this white contrast stitching, this beautiful wood trim with an aluminum bottom that moves all the way across the dashboard. Up front in this car is such a nice place to be. Everything feels expensive, everything feels well screwed together, and it's just so gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful interiors I've ever sat in, and it definitely beats the BMW 5 Series of the day. So I look forward and I can see it has a special AMG steering wheel with a flat bottom and perforated leather around the sides. And of course, it has a big AMG badge on the bottom to remind me that I'm cool. And I have a big central screen up here, which operates Mercedes Command MBUX some generation. I think it's the previous generation of what we have now. What we have now is this big, massive iPad screen like they're trying to mimic Tesla, and this seems a lot more conventional. So I have a center digital gauge cluster, which is quite configurable. You can move it between modes and things like that. Access a bunch of different things from this digital gauge cluster, like my performance, my navigation, my radio, media, and my gauge cluster designs, which I can switch between Sport, Classic, which is a more conventional gauge cluster, Progressive, and seems like that's it. So yeah, this digital gauge cluster is gloriously configurable, exactly what you'd want and expect from a car like this. Also, you move into this MBUX system, and I believe it is not touch controlled, so you have to operate this weird Mercedes thing, which has a sort of BMW iDrive spinning wheel that you can interact with things on the screen, but it's covered by this weird plank thingy that is also useful as a mouse. So I can move between things on the screen like I'm touching the screen, but I'm not actually allowed to touch the screen, which is quite annoying. And there's a next track button to keep Doug DeMuro happy. So yeah, the infotainment isn't the most important part of this car, but if you're gonna be driving it every day, you want it to be good, and it's okay, it's workable. I just wish I had a touch screen instead of this stupid thing. It's a little bit clunky, but you'd get used to it pretty quick, I imagine. And if you're complaining about the infotainment, then you should be in a different car. Moving from the infotainment controls, you have some drive controls around the outside, specifically on the left. You have your dynamic switch to switch between drive modes. And on the other side, you have your volume knob, an exhaust button to make the exhaust even more loud and glorious, and auto stop start and a parking assist camera button. So moving forward from that, again, underscoring the theme of this gorgeous, beautiful interior, you have a little cover that says AMG on it. You open that, you have 2 cup holders and a wireless charger, and you have a beautiful, gorgeous analog clock, which I love. I'm a big watch guy, and that looks like something I want to have on my wrist. That is a beautiful, beautiful watch clock. And up from that, to really slam the point home that this interior was just perfectly executed and put together and just well done, you have manual climate controls that you can operate without going into a stupid submenu and without taking your eyes off the road and getting into an accident. You can just softly turn up the temperature whenever you want, and it's not dangerous, which is very nice. And up from that, 4 central vents. Your plebeian car probably has 2. This one has 4 because I'm rich and I'm more successful than you are. And a beautiful start-stop button. So again, the whole point of this car is the fact that it's a wagon that is really fast and awesome. But they didn't fail to absolutely deliver with this interior. It's one of my favorite interiors I've ever sat in, and it is just gorgeous. Everything feels expensive. Everything feels well screwed together. Everything looks beautiful. Somebody spent a lot of time making sure this interior was good, and they did a great job, and they deserve a raise. And that's not what can be said for Mercedes now, because their interior quality has definitely gone down, and I'm not a big fan of that huge iPad screen, but it's moving with the times. They have to fit a big Tesla screen up here. Let's look at the monster that lies under the hood. So we open the hood on the E63 and we find out the other thing that makes this car very special. AMG's 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 lies underneath the hood, and it's tied to a 9-speed automatic that routes its power to all 4 wheels. And who do we have to thank for this AMG engine in particular? Christian Rosler. Thank you, Christian, because without you, we wouldn't be able to hear this. So what can I say about this engine? It replaces the old naturally aspirated 6.2-liter AMG Hero V8 that everybody loved because of the sound it made, that low roar, and the fact that it made buying a German sports sedan with a massive muscle car engine that was also very refined possible. So the 4-liter twin turbocharged AMG V8 had huge shoes to fill indeed, and I think it definitely met them, which is more than what can be said for what replaces this engine in the C63, which is a turbocharged hybrid 4-cylinder. This was one of the last years where AMG really knew what they were doing and were still putting V8s into cars, and that's what made AMG stand apart from all the rest. And now they think that people want a turbocharged hybrid 4-cylinder to replace this. I don't care how much power at any given point that 4-cylinder ever makes. I will never buy one, ever. And I recommend nobody, not a soul, buy one. I don't care that emission laws are getting too strict. I don't care that it makes more power. I don't care that it's more fuel efficient. It doesn't have a twin turbo V8 that makes insane noises underneath the hood. So this is one of the last great AMGs. And if they keep doing 4-cylinders, they're never going to come back to this level. So this engine had huge shoes to fill, and I think it did a pretty good job because it developed 603 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque, and it still sounds otherworldly. This engine, when you rev it out, sounds like a mixture between World War II and NASCAR. It's just so good, and I can't wait anymore. Let's take this car out on the road and see how it drives, but not before hearing a couple more revs. Here we are behind the wheel of the E63 AMG Wagon. I look behind me and I can see that, yes, I've got plenty of cargo and plenty of room, but also in front of me is 600 horsepower at the disposal of my right foot. So let's get going. Now, the funny thing that I have to know with this car is that it's a very serious performance car, right? But shift gears, I don't know if you can see. All serious in its Germanness and 600 horsepower. It's a very serious, crazy car. And it's just a little stock, gear selector stock to shift into drive. Not a big deal, but it's something to know. Also, another thing is that as you turn at just regular speeds, the bolsters in these seats will inflate and deflate. So I'm turning right now, and my left seat bolster is inflating to keep me still. Now that's something for when you're driving on racetracks and things like that. In everyday driving, doesn't really make that much sense. It doesn't need it, but you just get the sense that the car is going 9. You stay in the center of the seat at all times. So we're out on the road here, and as you're driving along, yeah, the ride is quite harsh. I believe I have it in sport though. Yeah, it's still harsh when you put it in comfort, but I mean, what can you expect? It's an AMG. You have to have some sacrifice with a car like this. It can't do everything, include have a cushy ride for your grandmother to enjoy. There's the seat bolster inflating for me. It's got to have a little bit of sacrifice, so a harsh ride is to be expected, and it's not really a big deal. Because this car is special, and it's a little rough around the edges, but that just keeps you informed at all times that you're driving something that is basically unparalleled anywhere else on the road in terms of performance and its entire ethos. At regular speeds for daily driver things, ride is quite harsh, but it is very quiet. And you could easily daily drive one of these things, no problem at all. I mean, it's a 9-speed automatic, so it's gonna have the revs low when you're not on it, and it's gonna be quite quiet and friendly. But when you want it to be a little bit more aggressive, you can just open it up like I'm about to here. It makes such a good sound. It's insane. It should be illegal for cars to be this good, and in some European countries it's starting to be. They're thinking, no, people are having too much fun. Let's restrict the engines so that AMG is forced to put a 4-cylinder hybrid turbo whatever in their AMG cars. And yes, those make more power than the V8 for 10 seconds, and then the electric motors die off and you have less power than the V8, which just underscores how stupid the whole plug-in hybrid thing is, especially in an AMG. This engine should never, ever, ever die unless it's replaced by another V8. Oh. Oh, it's so good. Everything about this car is just nailed it. Everything is perfect. Everything is exactly how I want it to be. The sound is there. The experience is there. The smile is big and open and wide on my face for all to see from the toilet, which is probably where you guys are watching. And it just sucks that you guys are at home and you're not in this seat having this experience. If I had one of these cars, I would never, ever, ever, ever get rid of it, ever. AMG, when they really put their minds to it and they're not as restricted with emissions or whatever, they know how to build a car that makes you smile and makes you feel good. And anybody who tries to argue that electric cars are taking over the world, and electric cars are faster, electric cars are cheaper, electric cars are better, I'm going to drop this bomb. I'm going to say no. I have a couple words for you. Mercedes E63 AMG. And they're gonna go, yeah, you're right. You got a good point. It's like, this car is good enough to convert any Tesla fanatic. I am 100% sure of it. It is just so damn awesome. Everything about this car. Yeah, the ride's a little harsh, and I'm not a huge fan of the infotainment, but who cares? Who cares? 600 horsepower in a big old station wagon is enough to make me a very happy boy indeed. Oh yeah, I'm just thankful. Whoever's up there, whoever you guys believe in religiously, thankful to them for letting a car like this exist on our world. We are living in such a good time to be a car person when you can have this. People might be saying he's being too positive, he's not critiquing the car enough, because there is nothing to critique. It is perfect. 10 out of 10. Absolutely, they absolutely nailed this car in every single measurable way. Oh, little exhaust pops. Oh yeah. Yeah. This might be the best car. No, this is the best car I've featured on this channel, bar none. In terms of driver enjoyment, usability, quality, luxury, features, everything. Name it, this car has it all. Literally has it all. It is the perfect all-around car. And I don't think it's possible for anybody to drive one of these things and think, it's all right, it's not that good. No, this thing is fantastic. That's gonna do it for me. Like, subscribe, do all the normal YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.